Hi, this is Carl, and I just wanted to give you a brief overview of visualizing data, describing data, in statistics in general. When you receive data, it's usually a single data set, and what you could do with that single data set, you can draw several inferences from it. What that means is that you could actually tell several different stories with this. You can make several different points, essentially, with data. And so I just wanted to get a brief overview of it and how it can work in Excel and giving you a good sense, very briefly in this segment, on what presentations are preferred given what data you have. Like in the first example, in the first table I've created, you'll notice that there's companies A through D and sales. And so in total sales in dollars and the total sales as a percent of industry. So we'll create a bar chart with this first one because I think and that is the best presentation for this. So we'll go to insert, that's what you do, and there's our chart right here. Excel refers to a bar chart as a column chart because technically in Excel you could actually do a horizontal chart if you preferred. And so we're going to do a traditional 2D, and there's our chart. The issues first and foremost is labeling. Labeling is very critical in any kind of data analysis. You don't want to even insinuate that a point that's not you didn't mean to make, and data has a tendency to do that if you're not very clear and articulate, and you don't pay attention to the details of data presentations in Excel or any other program. So a quick fix to fix our labeling, because we want to make sure that any other reader would know which companies we're talking about in this chart. We can click on the axes right here, and then we right click, and then we get select data. What this allows us to do is it'll allow us to actually change the label. See, here's our horizontal axis. See 1, 2, 3, 4, and as it correlates to this. So we want to change that. So we want to actually change our labels. We want to click on this box right here, and then we want them to be company A through D. We click down, and then we click OK, and you'll notice that it corrected itself. And then it allows you to do a lot of other different things, in terms of formatting this axis. If we want to kind of cut back on the zeros, you can format the axis. We right-clicked just to clean it up a little bit, because it allows you to clean up the presentation and really do some pretty neat stuff with it. So and you'll see right here, it allows you to do a lot of different things. Format the size, the shape, the shadow, the glow. It gives you a lot of different customizable things, the fill and lines. So that's part one for that. And another piece of it, if you'll notice here, percent of industry. Now you'll notice that when I say a percent of industry in any kind of comparison, that comparison in terms of a percent will always add up to 100, because we are taking it as a percent of the whole being 100. So you'll notice that this will add up to 100%. So in terms of presenting this, so which company has the greatest, in a sense, market share? A good chart for this would be our pie chart. And so it's the same procedure, going up into insert, and then going under, there's our pie chart right there. I just want to create a traditional 2D pie chart right there. Now you'll notice it did a little bit of the detective work. We want to make sure, and you can see it made a little bit of an error. So we want to do our own data selection. You right click, select data. Sometimes Excel can jump the gun per se. So you want to unclick that. We want to just get the percentages. And we don't want our total in there. We want that column gone. We would just want companies A through D, and we want percent of industry. And click OK. It allows us to really get a sense. And see, and part of it is when we had formatted it prior, Excel will carry over those names. And if it doesn't, you can simply and correct that same issue by going to right-clicking, select data, and then it allows you to change the label name so that you can get it unconfused. And part of it too especially with you're dealing with pie charts. You want to make sure that you are labeling correctly. Um, because with pie charts, especially if you're analyzing several different variables, it can become very complex. And so we just want to make sure that it's correct. And number two that I want to do is right here, just to show you uh, duplication. Like, so what does this mean? And when I say that, I wanted to show you how you compare two categories within the same bar chart. So, I have company A and B and C over here, kind of, in solitary. But what I want to do in this case, this was a survey, a made-up survey, just kind of in the spirit of the season, most likely to get a gold medal, U.S. or China, and these are different Winter Olympics. And so this is a percent response rate. And so what we want to do is create a dual pie chart. So it's or dual bar chart, I'm sorry. And so we go to insert in the same scenario. We want to insert a chart. The chart's there. See, our chart's ready. And we'll select the data just like we've done before. And then this is where Excel can do a lot of the work for us, because we just want to highlight this and see we prepare with the US, we have the China, we have the response rate, 70% of snowboarding for US, 10% of China, and then we have our totals. Now, in a sense, we don't necessarily need the total, so we'll make sure that we don't get that, because Excel will already have that in mind. We don't necessarily need to factor in the total percent. That is just, in most analyses and in stats that you will work with in the contingency table, the 100% is a good check to make sure that you have calculated those percentages correctly. And so what we'll do, you'll see right here, the same holds true. We have our chart, and it changed the chart title in this case. You can just drag and change, and it allows you to do a lot of different things. So you can do most likely to obtain gold medal. And you can provide the context versus China. There we go. So you'll see that you can do a lot of different things with that. So, and then we'll just drag this a little bit further down. But in the Excel that you can review on your own, this will be a little better organized. But for the purposes of the demonstration, I just want to move down. And so here's one that's also just a seasonal, watching the Super Bowl. This is an actual more, whereas before we're talking about percentages and the response rate. These are the actual responses. And so I just want to give you a look of what it can be in a contingency table where you actually have to create the calculations. And so the way this data is presented, you have male, you have female, and it's the percent by the number by sex who watch the Super Bowl for the game, for the commercials they don't know or they won't watch, and the total response rates. So, and this is a good exercise in understanding, okay, what can we do with this? What does this tell us? That's an essential question in statistics. Finding out the question, you can, from here, obviously, as you can see, there's several research questions that we could do. And I just wanted to show you how it would work. So say, we wanted to know the percent of females that watch it for the game, that watch it for the commercials, that don't know, and likewise for males. And so what that would mean is that you would take your numerator in this case, because these are percentages. You need a numerator and a denominator. So your numerator would be here against your total, and the denominator is over here. So your numerator, if you want to do for female, is female over total. Likewise, if you want to do for males, then percentages, male over total. So we'll do that up here, or down here rather. So you want to figure out the percent of females overall, or I'm sorry, it's down here. So the percent of females overall would be B20 over total females. So the total females are here. And so what we want to do is we can do that. And we'll know, and we can correct the format in just a little bit later. And you can see what we did. Oops. But another good exercise that we can do, and this is a trick in Excel, is say you want to make sure calculate our females, but you don't want to keep having to enter in numbers. So in this case, we want to make sure to lock this in. You really want to make sure that these are dollar signs that you put before the letter and the number of the cell. So, and what this does, it'll keep it. So if you notice, nothing had changed in terms of the calculation itself. When you drag it down, you'll see that the calculation is dragged down too. And if you notice, so in this case, for females over games, we want to know the percent of overall females that watch it for the game. That's B20 over B24. So they watch it for the commercials, it's B21 over B24. So the denominator stays the same. So you keep that overall population that you want to do. So similarly for males, it would be the 277 over the 492. The percent of males that watch it for the game. And likewise, you can drag down. Now, an important point to make is to understand and make sure that you understand your research question, because if you want to know the percent of females that watch it for the game or the percent of individuals who watch it for the game that are female, those are two different questions. So in terms of working with contingency tables, you have to make sure that you phrase it and that the question, what you're looking and examining the question, that you understand what it's asking. Because if it's the opposite, if it's asking you what percent of individuals watching the game for the game, the Super Bowl for the game, are female, that would be an entirely different question, where you would be going here over here. Now, if you want to know the percent of females that watch it for the game, it would be this number over this number. So two different research questions that you can ask, and that's another thing in understanding how to represent or present data rather. So what we have here, and we can just format this real quick, and the quick format is right click, format cells. So now we have our percentages right here, 38.3. There we go. And so now what this allows us to do and allows us to analyze, similar to our earlier chart looking at likely obtain the gold medal US against China. So we want to make this a what they call a bar chart. So this is what it allows us to do. It's the same process. Right click, select data. When we get a range, we can do the very same thing because we've prepared it. And that's another thing too, when you're working in Excel, you want to prepare your data too. Sometimes you have to augment and prepare your data for analysis, because in the sense that what we have just created right here, really draw that from here. You have to really understand that you have to present the data, you have to synthesize it in a sense, so that you know. So now with here, we can do our we know these categories. But see, we don't necessarily need to change the labels because they're correct. But what we need to do is add a legend, and the legend will allow us to analyze and understand the sexes and their preference. And for here, a good tool would be to add a data label. So right click, data label. It allows us to really understand how to make these inferences. And see, so now we know, and surprisingly, or not, in this survey, 56% of men watch the Super Bowl for the game, compared to 38%. So again, if you have any questions, just let us know, and this will be posted as well, the Excel, so you can play with it. But thanks very much. Bye-bye.